team rap Jesus. My team go hard. My team rap Jesus. We about to go far. We about to go far. My team rap Jesus.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Fervently Creations. Listen, we just thank all our guests that always come on, but most of all, we thank and we appreciate the viewers that continue to watch us, the viewers that continue to share, like, and also tell other people about the show. One thing that I do want to give a shout out before we begin this great show and I begin to start talking, I want to give a shout out to both of our networks. We have RCG Global Network, which is on Roku, and we are also housed as well by Anointed Radio Network. Also, you can find on Roku. So I just want to just say thank you to those that are over the stations and networks that allow Fervently Creations to continue to come on air. So want to say thank you to them real quick. And also, as we're out there as the viewers, we constantly bring on guests. We constantly want to ask people exactly, how are you taking the gospel outside of the four walls of the church? Are you writing books? Are you in the marketplace? Are you doing ministry? Outside, is it that you go and you make time to go to the homeless shelter? Are you going visiting a sick? What are you doing? Are you a songwriter? How are you going outside of the four walls of the church? How are you going outside and evangelizing to others? So today we have an amazing, awesome evangelist on the platform today. Excited to talk to her. However, before we do, we always open up with a Bible verse. We open up with scripture, open up with a little bit of the word. So real quick, we're coming from Psalms 91, 4 and 5. Hey, a lot of those that like to engage in spiritual warfare are ones that needs to comfort. This verses or this chapter of Psalms is very known, very familiar, but we're going to talk about it just briefly today. We're going to go to verse 4. It says, he will cover you with his feathers. He will shelter you with his wings. His faithful promises are your armor and protection. And verse 5 says, do not be afraid of the terrors at night, nor the arrows that flies in the day. I'm going to go backward. I'm going to talk about this a little bit backwards. A lot of times we have terrors of the night. We have, or sometimes seem like days and weeks, but we have terrors that come on. We have things that begin to frighten us, that begin to kind of scare us because the uncertainty, the unknown. And then we feel like we're constantly getting daggers, and we're getting arrows thrown in our back and in our side and in our waist and in our abdomen. Like, we just feel like we're getting hit on every side. What it says, we feel like we're being pressed on every side, right? And sometimes that does startle us a little bit. It does knock us. It does shake us a little. We wobble a little bit, right? But if you go back to verse 4, it says that once that stuff comes, listen, God said he will cover you with his feathers. He will shelter you with his wings. His faithful promises are your armor and your protection. His promises. Do you remember what he promised you? That's the question. Do you remember what God promised you? Because a lot of times we start looking at our circumstances. We start looking at what is going on with us. We begin to look at what everyone else is doing, and we forget about the promises that he made to us. We forget to rely on the promises of his promises, his faithful promises. That means that he's true to it. His faithful promises, it is going to come. His faithful promises are your armor and your protection. Are you shielding yourself with the word of God? Are you shielding yourself with the promises? And once I say word of God, I also want to point out that I'm not just talking about what's in the 66 books, what he spoke to you. Once he said, hey, I am going to elevate you. I'm going to give you that promotion on the job. That once he said, it's not always going. I'm going to move you from this place. Once he tells you certain things, I'm going to bring you a husband, or I'm going to change that husband of yours, or I'm going to change that wife of yours. Once he say, I'm going to deliver your kids. Are you concentrating? Are you holding on to those promises as your armor and your protection? Because if not, when those arrows come, they're going to pierce you. And let's go back also in Isaiah. It's look that they're going to come. The arrows are going to come. The weapons are they're going to form. They won't prosper. But one way that we allow them not to prosper, if we hold on to his promises, if we're staying faithful and saying, you know what, God, I believe that you're faithful of your word. I believe you're faithful of your promises to me. I understand that you are a man that cannot lie. And what you said was that I was not going to have to continue to go through this situation that much. What you said was that you was going to heal him from the addiction, from the drugs. So what you said was you was going to bring my child back, that you was protecting my child. And so are you giving God back his promises? So listen, I just want you to know today, I want to encourage each and every last one of you that he will cover you. He will cover you with his feathers, and his wing spread is very long. So he will cover you with his feathers. He will shelter you with his wings. His faithful promises are your armor and your protection. With that, I'm going to bring Evangelist Seals up on the screen. We're going to see exactly what she has to say about Psalms 91, 4 and 5. And as I bring her up, I'm going to read the verses 4 and 5 once again. And again, I'm reading now the New Living Translation. It says, hello. It says, he will cover you with his feathers. He will shelter you with his wings. His faithful promises are your armor and protection. Do not be afraid of the terrors of the night, nor the arrows that fly in the days. What say ye, Evangelist Seal, on these Bible verses today?
Hello, everyone. I love Psalms 91 in its entirety. And verse 4 sticks out to me the most because when I was younger, I had a dream that I was in a dark place. All these demons kept coming at me. And then God's wings would just close me in where none of them, the demons or anything, could affect me. And I would cower down, not knowing that his wings is going to protect me. So I had that happen 3 times in the dream. And the last time I stood up strong behind his wings because I knew his wings were going to cover me. I knew he had me through anything I went through in life, through any challenges, through any heartache, through any pain, through any suffering. His wings was sheltering me. It may have came, like she said, like the scripture in Isaiah, it talks about that the God blows out the coal, blows the fire off the coal from the coalsmith. So he knows that the weapon is being formed. He's in the midst of it being formed. He may not have caused it, but he allowed it. And knowing that, I know that my God is greater than anything, and he could protect me from anything that the enemy tries to throw my way, hiding under his wings. And then verse 5 talks about, do not be afraid of the terror by night or the arrow that flies by day. At night, I used to dread nights because I didn't want to go to sleep because I
had dreams,
nightmares. So I used to do everything to stay awake. But once I had that dream, I meditated on those scriptures and he held me. He covered me. My sleep shall be sweet, and it is sweet. So I thank God for those scriptures. They bless me. So there you go.
Come on, that is powerful. And listen, sometimes, just like in your dreams, sometimes the tests and the trials and the weapons come multiple times before we finally say, wait a minute, I can stand up strong in the Lord, and I don't have to carry it down to the situation. Yes. I don't have to worry about how I'm going to make it. I don't have to worry about X, Y, and Z. Or so, but sometimes it takes him showing us a couple times, hey, I did not leave you. I did not forsake you. Hey, I'm there for you. Daughter, I got you. Daughter, I'm covering you. Daughter, my wings is surrounding you. And sometimes he has to show it to us a couple times before we actually go through something and say, you know what, I've been here before. And I knew my money been funny before. And I knew that at the end of the day, my bills still got paid. I was not begging for bread. I still had a roof over my head. You know, I've had a bad report from the doctor before, but I know that last time that he healed me. And so this time I'm not concerned. This time I'm not worried. I can stand strong because I know his wings are going to cover me. His wings are his shelter his wings are going to provide shelter for me. And so that's just awesome, because a lot of times one way that our faith grows sometimes is that we've been in a situation before. We've been tested. We've been tried by that fire before. And so the next time it comes, I'm not as nervous about it. It's just like going up on the diving board. And each time you go up there and the first time you go up there, you kind of like, oh, okay, I can't turn around. I have to jump. And as you continue to go up and up, that fear and that timidness and that the unknown and being scared of falling, from being up so high, it doesn't bother you anymore, because why? You've been there before.
And the enemy doesn't have no new tricks. He don't have no new tricks. It may be a higher test, but once again, we've been there before, so we don't know how to handle it.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I'd say. Like he bakes once it comes to our temptations, right? He used the same thing to tempt us. He might add a new ingredient, but he know, hey, it's bread. Now it might be cinnamon toasted bread. He might add a little flavor to it, but he's still gonna tempt you with the bread. You know, he still brings that same recipe, that same thing of temptation to you and so it's just like, okay, wait a minute. I know the way you come at me. I know which way that you enter into me each time. I know which way that you tempt me. I know which way that you knock me off balance. Why? Because I showed you my hand. I showed you that if you sit there and play with my finances or whatever, then I'm going to stop doing ministry. I'm going to cower it down. I'm going to go in the corner and I'm going to cry and holler, woe, it's me. Or I'm not going to want to do nothing for the Lord. So he keeps coming at us through our finances, or he keeps coming at us through our children, or he keeps coming at us through our parents, or he keeps coming at us through our spouses or whatever. Why? Because he knows that knocks us off balance. And because we're knocked off balance and because we struggle during that time, then he say, hey, that they're not doing ministry. So now I keep them from spreading the gospel. I keep them from moving on their assignment. Why? Because I didn't created a distraction. I didn't created a big enough stumble block. I didn't created a mountain in front of them. And they don't know that all they have to do is speak to the mountain and command it to be moved and believe it. But no, they're still simply saying, you know what, I'm coming up on the rough side of the mountain. No, I'm supposed to speak to that mountain nowadays.
Yes. Move out my way.
Exactly. Evangelist Seals, tell the people who they have the pleasure of talking with today.
So my name is Michelle Seals, and yes, I am an evangelist missionary, which I became an evangelist missionary in July of this year, July 2020, where I also became a trauma healing counselor / group facilitator as well. I am certified in that area, and my book, Knee Baby, which you could see a poster of it on the back wall, is about trauma. So I grew up in the church. My father was a pastor, and what the world did not know, that I was being molested by my father and also physically and mentally abused by my father. And I wrote how God helped me overcome those challenges to let you know that God is not a respecter of persons. If he could do it for me, he can do it for you as well.
Come on, that is awesome. You know what? We hear a lot of people come on our I've heard a lot of people talk about being molested and stuff. And they'll talk about, oh, the deacon or, or someone else in the church. But rarely do you hear, oh, it was the pastor. And the pastor was my father. And so everyone else on the outside, they see the facade that he puts up, but do not know what's going on behind closed doors. Right. So with that, and of course, I want to get back to Knee Baby in a moment, but can you tell the people, how was it that though that your hurt, your trauma, your childhood trauma came from the hands of not only your father, but a pastor, at any point in your walk, did it cause a struggle with your relationship with Abba Father, with God?
Oh, yes. So with God, I struggled because I remember as a little girl going through being abused by my dad, and I would go pray to him. And I felt like only certain prayers were answered. And I didn't understand that. Why are just some of my prayers answered and others not? These abuse is not answered. Why am I just like unlovable? So as I matured, and at the time this was going on, my mother, she lived in Syracuse, New York, and my father lived in North Carolina, where I'm originally from. So my mom had escaped him, and she's had to get us back from my dad. And so she wasn't there. She didn't know. So when my mom did eventually get us back from my dad, me and some of my siblings, she told us we didn't have to go to church no more if we didn't want to. She was like, it's up to you guys. I'm not going to church. But if you want to go to church, I'm for you. I will take you. I will make a way for you to get there, but it's up to you. So I quit going to church. Like, I made a vow to never go to church again. Mm-hmm. I made a vow to never trust God again, because I'm like, if this can't be God, the God who people say he is, if he allowed this to happen to me. Yeah. So yeah, I struggled growing up. It took my daughter cutting up, a friend putting her in a after school program that she said would help. For some reason, I don't know why, I didn't even realize the building was a church. Maybe because there was two entrances. So there was a side for education and a side for the church. So until my daughter went to that program, and she kept begging me to come to church, and the first lady kept asking me to go to church. That's how I got back to church. So out of the mouth of babes, you'll get there.
You know what? The hardest person I had ever came across or encountered that for us like evangelizing to was someone that had a similar story. And so she was saying how she didn't believe in God. And it was something on a Facebook post or whatever. And so it was a couple of us on there, and we was, just saying, well, he's done so much for us, this, that, and another, even in our, our stuff. And so her thing was, she said when she was younger, she would pray for her stepdad to stop sexually abusing her, stop molesting her. She said, and the more I prayed, the worse it got. And she said, and so I figured if, it wasn't a God, I was still kind of young in my, I can't say faith. I was young in, once I say evangelizing, right? And I didn't know, I had no response to it. I had no, absolutely nothing, because I couldn't blame her if that, like, what do you say to someone that has been in a situation similar to yours, that experienced hurt at that level from a leader in the church? And it's like, even with your mom, it's like, okay, you can understand why she said, hey, I'm not going back to church. Mm-hmm. So how do you evangelize to people that have been in your situation that say, I'm not going back to church because I prayed for something to stop at a young age as a babe, and he didn't come help me as a child?
Good question. But one thing I can say, I still believed in God. Mm-hmm. I still believed in Jesus, and I still believed in the Holy Ghost. I just did not trust them.
Got you. My
trust was lost. Like, I did not trust no one but my mother. She got us back. Yeah. And I put a disclaimer out there when I talk to people first. Do not presume I know everything. Right. I do not know all the answers. God does. First, and secondly, if my mother would have been like, came to me for counseling, or that young lady, I'd have been like, I don't blame you. I get it. I understand. And your feelings are valid. Your emotions are valid. Everything you feel is valid. Yeah. However, if you just try God, just try him for yourself in your way. Like, you don't have to go to church to try him. You could try him at home.
Exactly.
You could try him. He's everywhere. And his word tells you to try him at his word. Mm-hmm. So you form your own relationship with him. Like, I teach my kids, not religion, relationship.
Exactly.
So that's where I honed that in, even if I do want you to go to church because it says do not forsake the assembly of yourself, and which I'm paraphrasing. So you do need to go when you're available, when you have time. Please honor God by being with his people. However, make sure your relationship with him is intact no matter what.
Yes. And it's good that you say you teach relationship and not religion. And I think a lot of people, for a while, we were taught more on religion versus relationship. And so now you have more people saying, no, we're teaching relationship. And I think that was the issue with the Pharisees, right? The Pharisees knew religion, but they didn't know relationship.
Right.
And my very first sermon that I had preached once I was actually licensed as a evangelist was on religion or relationship. And it was, and I used I want to say it was Teddy Peter saying, it feels good loving somebody and somebody loves you back.
Yeah, that was his song.
And so it's just like, are you doing it because you love them? Are you doing it out of just routine religious practices? And a lot of times you have people that go to church because you're not supposed to forsake the assembly of the brethren, or so they're going to church out of religion and not out of relationship. They're not going for, and only time that they pick up their Bible, only time that you can hear them worshiping, the only time that you hear them crying out, the only time that they even get a word in them is on Sunday. And I heard an analogy used. They say, once you're I want to say it was Pastor Mike Jr. Pastor Mike Jr. out of Birmingham, Alabama, and he was talking about the phone. If you charge your phone on Sunday, it's at 100%. Like, it's not going to last you to next Sunday. It's not going to last a full week. You're going to have to keep recharging it and recharging it and recharging it. But are we recharging our system like that to build that relationship, or are we just doing things out of religious practices? And so that's awesome. So tell us about Knee Baby.
So Knee Baby was birthed out of a journal. I didn't remember, like in my teenage years, I blocked out what I was going through with my father. I was just so angry. I didn't know why. I just was living life reckless because I never thought I would live to be 25, because I don't know. I just didn't care. So, and I knew that type of lifestyle that I was living, fighting, angry, just bitter, that it was no positive way. And I never wanted to go to jail or anything like that. So I just took it as, okay, maybe somebody gonna kill me or I'm gonna die, and I'm fine with that. But when I entered the church, when I started back going to church, I started meeting with the first lady of the church I was at, and she had me journaling my dreams and thoughts, because it started coming back as dreams. And I was like, is this really real, or am I making up scenarios in my mind? And I went to a church conference. They had a weekend shut in for the young women, and the evangelist there was telling me those were real. And she was like she didn't even know. Like, I didn't even talk to her about it, because to tell you the truth, I only went just to get away for a weekend. I really didn't take the event seriously. So when this lady came to me talking to me, I'm like, what does she want? And she was like, God is bringing back your childhood back to your remembrance so that you could help someone else out.
Wow.
And I was like, nope, I'm not helping nobody, because nobody helped us. Them church people down there didn't help us. And everybody we ran to for help turned us away. And she was like, God said he's even going to show you their fate, and what he's going to do if you do not help anyone, that he's going to get their fate is going to be your fate. Wow. So he's going to send women to you for you to help, and you need to help them. And that night I dreamed, like, everything came back.
Yeah.
And it just, when I told the first lady, she had me journaling everything. and I started going to counseling as well. I started going to counseling, and my counselor had me journaling everything. And they both was telling me at the same time, you should turn this into a book. It'll help so many people. And I'm like, no, like this talking against the church for one. For two, I haven't told my family. I haven't even told my mom. Like,
Wow.
I didn't tell anybody. And it took me 5 years to turn it into a book.
Wow.
And when I turned it into a book, I still didn't tell my family. The first copy, I just went to my mom's house and I was just crying, and I handed her a copy and she was like, what are you crying for? I was like, I don't know. She was like, girl, give me this book. She read it. I was hiding. She kept saying she wanted to talk to me after she read it. So I was like, no, I kept making like I had stuff to do, so she couldn't come by my house. I did my book signing, didn't tell my siblings, let them read the book. So I was like, okay, everybody done read the book. I'm gonna just hear what they got to say now. And it was like opening Pandora's box. My mom was upset. She was hurt. Like, I've asked you for years, did he do anything to you?
Yeah.
And I was like, Mom, I'm sorry. Like, I blacked it out. And then I couldn't tell you. I know you, my mom. And me and my mom was so tight. Me and my brothers, they would call her the train and me the caboose. That's how tight we were.
And then a part of it is just like, I was trying to keep you out of jail.
So yeah, and that's another thing. I waited till he died
before
turned it into a book. I wouldn't have never turned that into a book when he was still living, because I would have probably went and hid in Canada or somewhere, because I was terrified of my dad his whole life. And like, even my mom's story with him is tragic.
How did you get through, or do you still battle with the shame behind it?
I don't battle with the shame anymore.
Okay.
I believe God took it away, because like I said, writing the book, giving it to people, giving it to family, at the book signing and everything, it was like opening Pandora's box. And I had to go to counseling about that, releasing it.
Yeah. Because
I was ashamed in the beginning, and I was like, and it was to the fact that I was like, I'm talking about a pastor. Like, do I really need to put this book out there or hide it because I'm putting a bad light on church people?
It's you said it, and for the first, what comes to my mind is, remember, and I don't know exactly where it is, but I want to say it's Ezekiel, right? And I want to say it's Ezekiel, where God had exposed to him what was going on behind the scene, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, once we mention things that happen, that goes on in the church, it's like, we need to stop airing our dirty laundry and this, that, and another. But it kind of goes back to that upbringing where people was told what goes on in the house stays on in the house, and this, this and another. But somebody needs to start bringing things to light. Say, this is what's going on. This needs to stop. Somebody needs to be held accountable, because what happens once we close our mouth and we don't bring these things to light so they can be dealt with, then we allow it to continue to go on in secrecy because we never confront it. And one thing that I say, you cannot defeat what you are unwilling to confront. You can't kill what you're not unwilling to, what you're not willing to confront. So David, in order to kill Goliath, he had to first confront him.
Yep. So you know what, and I think that's why God helped me deal with the shame process. Like, I am not embarrassed about it no more, because God kept saying to me, secrets need to be exposed. So my first book signing after that, like, I went to a military base with some women at a church event, and they gave me 5 minutes to speak about my book and then go out and sell my books and merchandise that go along with it. So I knew this for like a month. God ain't give me anything to say. And I'm like, I shouldn't go because I got 5 minutes and I don't know what to say. God, you're giving me nothing. So I'm sitting in there, the lady presenting me and everything, and I still had nothing to say. As soon as I got up from the podium, got to the podium, all I heard was secrets. People need to stop with these family secrets hurting people. Some things that are secret should not be secret. And if you want to read my book of how I overcame my secrets, I'll be at the table. And that was all I said. It was like a pin could drop in there. Best books
I'd have been like, hold on, let me see. And you know, some people just nosy on the other part of it. Like, what is the secret
I ever had.
Yeah. But and you know what, and it is you know, and it's a lot of people that are it's a lot of people that I think once it comes to the millennials and the ones that's coming up after us, our voices are like, hold on, we're no longer allowing our voices not to be heard. And I know they call it this council culture, but some things need to be counseled.
Yep.
Some things need to be destroyed because we have to stop breaking the cycle. And we have to start breaking the cycles of stuff that is going on generational, not only in the family, but in the church as well.
Yes.
And it's a lot of people that come through. I did an anthology, and you know, we had people talking about molestation, but it's plenty of times I've done this show and I've heard people talk about molestation, and not just girls, but boys as well. Or I'm saying go, but you know, it's still people that speak on it, and this stuff carries on. And now, because that spirit is within the church, it has caused people to say, I'm not going back into the church. Right. I don't trust church people. I believe in God, but it still creates a hindrance. It still creates a barrier because you can't grow as much as you need to grow in God because you're not up under sound doctrine. You're not up under sound teaching, and no one is actually breaking down the scriptures to you. You know, how can they learn if no one teach?
Yes. They gotta, that's the thing about it too. And I realized that if this stuff stop, people will return back to church where they can get the teaching, where the word can be rightly divided. Somebody got to have wisdom enough and be strong enough to be like, we're not going for this anymore.
Yeah. And I think too, sex is not talked about in the pulpits, right?
Nope.
And for one, God created sex between husband and wife to be something beautiful. And that needs to be spoke of, but it also needs to come up just how they go in the pulpits and they talk about the women with the tight skirts and the short mini skirts and this, that, and another. Can we go in there? Can we talk about people having inappropriate sex with children?
Yes.
Can we discuss that? Can we talk about the rapes and molestation? Why can't we talk about it? It's in the Bible. Come on, Tamar.
And then especially the trauma that it affects. It messes you up, not just spiritually. It messes you up mentally.
Yes.
That's why we have a lot of people running around with trauma.
Yes. And the thing is of trying to forgive, because with that sexual trauma comes shame. That is one reason why I asked you about shame, but it brings about shame. It brings about insecurity. We're so busy putting our mouth on homosexuals, but do you realize that I'm not saying all homosexuals, but a lot of homosexuals have been molested by the opposite sex or the same sex, which has persuaded their own sexual preference or have confused them sexually. And so, but it brings about depression and it brings on so many things, because a lot of times when people are molested, we're not even talking about rape, but in molestation and the sexual abuse, so that comes at childhood. And childhood is once your brain and once your family's starting to get perception of life, of reality, and you're beginning to form your own mindset on certain things. And so now you're teaching me one thing that I had took on was I did not have control over when or where or if I wanted to have sex, right? And so that I was nothing but sex. I was a sex tool. So I flooded myself as such. I had a friend, and her her dad, I would come over, and he was a preacher. I would come over to her house, or we'll get ready to go. And so whenever I would come over to her house, my clothes were kind of revealing, and he'd say, "What you selling?" It took me months to kind of figure out what he was actually saying. But he was like, so what you selling? I'd be like, nothing. He was like, so why you advertising? Like, whatever. All right, Mr. Rice. Niecy, you ready? And so and finally it hit me, but though it hit me, it still didn't quite register to me that, hey, I did not have to advertise myself as sex.
Right.
It's just like, you watch TV and there's so many, sex sells so many things, Mm-hmm. Hey, you want to sell beer, put them in a bathing suit, put them in a bikini or whatever. Like, sex sells so much stuff. And so once I got into being married, it's once I finally realized I was more than just sex. And I didn't know what to do with that information. I didn't, because I was just like, oh, wait a minute, I don't have to have sex as I want to. I got the power of saying no. Nope. You want to have sex? Nope. I'm good. Nope. Don't want it. And it destroys your marriages.
Yes.
What happens in your childhood, that childhood trauma, especially with molestation, it carries on to different parts of your life, because it caused you to be timid in certain situations. You could smell something.
And it trigger you.
Yeah, and it triggers you. Like, one of the smells for me was, have you ever smelled alcohol pour out someone's skin?
Yes.
So my brother's dad, who had molested me, I remember the night that I smelled the alcohol pouring out of his skin, right? So in the military, being in formation, and on Monday morning, but they didn't have a good weekend. You know what I'm saying? They didn't have a real good weekend. Like, they had a time last night. They didn't turn up the night before. And I'm in formation, and all I smell is alcohol coming out people's pores, because they just ran. We just exercised, or some of them we hadn't even started exercising yet. You can still smell it. But even after they exercise, their pores begin to open up. The alcohol begins to come up, and I'm sitting in formations with flashbacks. I'm sitting in formation, just struggling, because I remember the smell, and the smell was a trigger. The smell no longer triggers me anymore, but I do know it, and I still know it, but it's no longer a trigger for me anymore. So yeah, so it's a lot of triggers once it comes.
Yeah, it is.
So
I have a lot of triggers too. Like, still to this day, I have a lot of triggers, and my husband would do something a certain way, and I'd be like, "Why you do that?"
Yeah. Yep. So I had and one of the things when we was talking about sexual trauma, I was looking at the ACE survey, adverse childhood experiences, which is one that they do, and it's like 10 questions they ask you, have you experienced stuff through by the ACE? But how that study originally came about was they was looking at obesity in females, and what happened was what it went back to, their obesity and weight gain that they was going through was triggered by incidents of where they probably had felt like being sexually harassed, or whether they felt like and because they felt as though if they weren't attractive, or because the attraction of the man had turned them on, and so it was like a protective mechanism from their brain. Automatically, they didn't do it consciously, but subconsciously in their mind, then they began to do certain things, and so it was harder for them to lose weight, or they would lose weight, and then a certain situation come about, and then all of a sudden the weight gain comes back. And they were like, I hadn't did anything different or whatever, but the body remembers. How they say the body keeps score. So our mind keeps score of keeps a tally sheet of the past traumas that we have dealt with. And so it begins to react in such a way to say, I need to protect you. Your body's trying to protect you. Your mind is trying to protect you from feeling what you felt before. So your body is trying to protect your soul. And your spirit is like, wait a minute, come on, hold on. You're fearfully and wonderful made. Listen, I'm telling you that I had his faithful promises. His faithful promises are your armor and protection. And he said, let me cover you. I'm gonna cover you, but your body is saying, no, hold on, I'm gonna protect you another way. I'm going to make you feel unattractive, because maybe if you don't feel unattractive, then you won't get the unwanted sexual attention. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So
It's,
at one point, my husband, he would just walk by me and kiss me a certain way. And I don't know why. Every time he would do that, my body would lock up. And I could not kiss him back. I could not move or nothing. And so what I would do is I would try to go to bed early that night. Like, I don't want him messing with me. I don't want him touching me. So while he downstairs watching sports, I'm about to force myself to go to sleep. And I didn't know he noticed. After a while, he noticed, and me and him had a talk about it, and we somehow worked it out through counseling. I am so grateful that he decided, because that was a fight for me and him for a while as well, us going to counseling, because not all, like, he grew up in the church, so not all believe in counseling. They don't believe it worked, but he's seeing the fruits of it, which I'm grateful for. So we worked that out in counseling, so that don't bother me no more. But I do get that, like, where I've had people tell me as well, like, I had a cousin of mine, she told me she dressed like bummy so guys wouldn't look at her because of the treatment of childhood, what happened to her in childhood. And I felt so bad for her because she's such a beautiful woman. So it just bothers me when that type of stuff happens. So I try to help her work through that situation.
This and like, even I remember going through, and we also, because of our own issues and our own triggers, we can cause an issue within our spouses for his rejection, right? Because my husband, he would walk by and he would, touch or get a little feel or whatever, right? And I was like, it's sickening. Like, and that was my mind, and I would say it after a while, because I had got so disgusted with it. I got so annoyed with it to where I was just like, it's sickening. But as I was saying that, I was making him feel rejected. That my wife don't want me. My wife don't want me to touch on it. Like, and I was putting rejection in, which opens up other doors in a marriage. And so some of the stuff we have to look back and say, okay, what is the root of the thing? And that's what counseling helps with, because counseling helps you get to the root.
Yes.
It helps you identify. It helps you peel the layers back of it. How many times have you been talking to someone and they said, you're the first person I ever told this?
That's a good question. A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. And I'd be thinking, like, why are these people coming to me? Like, I don't even got to say anything. I can say, hi, how you doing? And they'll come tell me stuff. And then they'd be like, wow, you're the first person. I'd be like, you don't even know me. Like,
you're the first person I ever told. My grandfather did it. He was like,
right. It's still shocking to me, though, even though it's been a lot of people come up to me. I'm like, do I just look like I just want to hear that? Like, not in a bad way.
Like, what am I supposed to say? And sometimes it's just like, sometimes it's nothing for us to say. It's just, hey, you finally allowed that little girl. It's just like looking at knee baby back there, right? And even looking at it, it's kind of how I picture it, right, in the screen. You finally allow that little girl that's sitting in the corner, for them, their little girl, to finally speak their truth and say, I was molested. And sometimes that's all that little girl needs or that's the beginning of their healing process. And let me not say that's all they need. That's the beginning. That's the start of their healing process, of being able to take the tape off their mouth and say, I was molested too. Because the little girl sit in a corner and like, are you going to tell someone today? Are you going to allow me to speak today? Are you going to allow me to release the hurt, the trauma that I felt? Are you going to allow me to have a voice today? Because it does take away your voice.
Yes. And then, or you think about what's going to happen after I say something.
Yeah.
What's the backlash to it?
Mm-hmm.
Because stuff can cause ricochets, backlash. It can cause breakups and whole entire families, shift
Yeah.
everything that you're so used to. So should I risk losing what I got, even though what I have is bad, to
Mm-hmm.
have nothing? It's deep.
Yeah, because sometimes once you do finally tell your story, you tell you once you finally tell your story, you have to realize some of those people are not the same people they were 10, 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so to them, it's just like, wait a minute, you made me look bad. I have well, she was, I'll still say cousin, but it's by marriage. And my uncle had molested her, right? But this same uncle who abused her to the point where, they even had a child or so with, this same uncle died protecting me.
Wow.
And so the person that caused her pain had sacrificed his life for me. And that's weird because if I brought her on the show, we would have somewhat of two different memories, or we would tell our stories different. Talking about the same guy, we would tell our story differently.
Was it in the same time span?
By then she was removed from the home. By then she had been DHR had removed her from the home. By then her and the child, because they end up having a child together. Our
Wow.
first, it ended up the blood test came back, and the child was his. And so so her and the child got removed from the home, and this was years later, or so, because he died while I was in high school. And I know she's older. She's probably about 6 or 7 years older than what I am. And so, but I think once everything happened with her, she was in high school. So, it's different. Sometimes you could talk about it just like I that's the one that she, and then you might hear it from, he probably, though he was loving towards her, he was abusive towards towards her brothers, her siblings and stuff. Strict, but he was different. Like my stories of him is, hey, he was a protector. He was funny. He was same person. But I wasn't in the home with him. I wasn't in the home with him. But the night that he died, I was right there. Was right there.
Wow.
And so, it's sometimes it can mess up a home, because she came out and she told her story. And, at the end of the day, that's her truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's her truth. You know what? I might reach out to her and get her on the show. That'd probably be an interesting show. But
Yeah, that'll be a good show.
yeah, so that's her truth. And I respect her truth.
Nice.
I respect her truth. So
Because my father, we live in that town. He has so many people convinced. So there's a group of people who he had done stuff to as well,
yep.
who believe us. And there's another group that just seen that other side and just love him. And your dad can do no wrong. And I'm like, are we talking about the same guy? But well, I get it.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, her story is 100% true. It's a DNA test to prove that.
You're right.
Her stuff is true. Her story is true. But even with the facts, some people still like, no, and she's like, no, it happened. And I do not discredit her story one detail. Because at the end of the day, he was a grown man and she was a child. So even if some of the stuff was wanted, or whether it wasn't wanted, or whether she got confused in the process of her role, of the proper role that was supposed to take place between a stepfather and a stepdaughter, even if that is the case, and I'm not saying it is, at the end of the day, he was an adult.
Mm-hmm.
He was an adult. So at the end of he was still wrong all day. So, but hey, of course, I love him. I appreciate the sacrifice that he made for me. So it's kind of different. Sometimes you have people that they remember the person different. They remember the person different. So it's kind of interesting. So with that, tell people, as we're talking about knee baby, and we're talking about releasing the secrets and stop talking about the secrets. I mean, no, we need to start telling these secrets and stopping this stuff from going on, not only in the family, but also in the church. Can you tell the people how to purchase a copy of Knee Baby?
So my website is emlyndesigns.bigcartel.com. So it can be found there. And also I am on Amazon as well. So yes, and as you can see, the cover is on the back wall here. So you can get Knee Baby at Amazon as well. So those are the two places I am located right now.
Awesome. And how, if they want to just directly reach out to you and connect with you, how can they connect with you?
You could reach out to me on Facebook. You could reach out to me on Instagram as well. And as you can see, she put up the names on each one of those. And I will reach back out to you.
Awesome. So before we go, what do you want to leave the people with? If you just had to look at, and I'm gonna say a specific, for those that have experienced sexual trauma in their childhood,
I would want you to know that it is not your fault. You are not the one to blame. And also, I want you to know that even though this may have happened to you, it is not who you are. This does not make you. It may make you stronger, but that is not your identity. You are greater. You are better than that. And you can overcome this.
Amen. Evangelist Seals, thank you so much for coming in, talking with us today. I truly appreciate it. And I love the conversation. I love the transparency in it. Listen, I'm going to put her website up one more time. Once we bring people on the show, we want you to network. We want you to connect with them. So please go to her email, www.emlyndesigns.bigcartel.com. For those that are listening and can't see it, it's MLYNNDESIGNS.BIGCARTEL.com. You can also again find her on Facebook at Lynn Seals and Instagram at Shelly Seals. So please reach out, please connect to her. And again, it was such a pleasure, such a joy to have you on the show on today. So let's see. And so listen, if you want to come on, if you want to share your story, if you want to talk about what business that you are doing, whatever you have, please come on. Please, it would be a pleasure just to sit and talk with you. You can go to the website at www.ferventlycreations.com. Our thing is that we're all about networking. Networking is not about just connecting people. It's about connecting people with ideas, and people with opportunities. Speaking of opportunities, I do have an opportunity for everyone on today that I want to bring out. Let's see where we go. Let's bring it up for you. We are doing another author call for our upcoming anthology. And the anthology this time is called Prisoner of War in the Mind. If you want to become a contributing author, we would love to have you. Every author will have an opportunity to write a chapter in this anthology. Your chapter will be edited. We'll send it back to you for suggestions for edit. We will not change your story, but tell your story. How are you telling your story? Are you telling your story in such a way to where it can actually move and it can actually help get someone set free from the captivity that has come in their mind? We will do promotion graphics for you. If you've never written a chapter before, never written in a book before, no problem. We do group coaching sessions, just 3 coaching sessions, but one of them we will do is how to write your chapter, how to tell your story in a way to where it will actually change and impact others' lives. You also have TV and radio show guest opportunities, multiple TV and radio show guest opportunities. You'll have magazines opportunities, and you get a chance to write with best-selling authors. Hey, right now I am a 4-time best-selling author and multi-international best-selling author. So you get a chance to write with other best-selling authors. It does on this flyer say speaking engagement opportunities. However, all of the speaking engagement opportunity slots have been filled. Why? Because we have already did everything, got our speakers for our next, for this book launch, which this book launch will also be a conference. So Prisoner of War in the Mind, that would be June 2nd through June 4th, 2023 in Atlanta, Georgia. Our guest speaker, special guest speaker is Prophetess Sophia Ruffin. Yes, Coach Ruffin, for those combat kids that are listening, listen, your coach will be in the building. We also have Prophetess Vicky Bells Harding. We have Apostle Dr. Deborah Allen, who's also our publisher with Ignite the Flame. We have Apostle Dr. Glenn Allen, Bishop Sean Lewis out of Virginia. We have Minister Gregory Hatnot and Apostle Dr. Jackie Hatnot. We have Miss Hilton, which is a director, and so powerful person as well. We have Minister Sophia Canyon and Coach Serene Reeves. Yes, that is the financial, the debt, drop the bomb on debt. Listen, also, if you're coming to this, the tickets are available for purchase on Eventbrite. Right now, we have released the early bird special tickets where regular admission is $275, VIP is $375. Only 100. Only the first 100 tickets purchased will receive the early bird special. So please go out, get your ticket before all those early bird specials are released. And so listen, this is going to be an amazing move. We also have a network gala. I want to mention that on June 2nd will be the networking gala. So if you're coming in, if you come in and decide you want to come and join us in Atlanta, don't forget your formal attire, but do not forget those business cards and whatever marketing things that you have that you may want to network with some people. So, because hey, we're all about networking. So I just thank you all again for being a part of the show, coming in and interacting with us. I thank y'all for watching each week with us at Fervently Creation. Again, go out, don't miss those amazing opportunities. Do not miss out. Go and support Emlyn Shields. Go to go to her website or go to Amazon. That's what it is. Go to Amazon and find and purchase Knee Baby. Listen, even if you're purchasing it off Amazon, what I do want to ask you to do for her is leave her a review. Leave her a review on the book. That those reviews go a long way. So please leave her review. As I say that, our show is coming to a close. Again, we thank you all. See you next time.
My team rap Jesus. We about to go far. My team rap Jesus. My team